and it's open for anybody who wants to find a bit of peace and tranquility. But we're talking about pilgrimage, and we've heard so many different ways of expressing exactly the same thing. We heard back at the temple about the origin of the word pilgrimage, or pèlerinage as it is in France. But in my simple definition, it's like being a stranger in a foreign place. And if you look back to the etymology of the word, that's really pretty much what it means. But to a Catholic, I'm a Catholic Christian. To me, pilgrimage means going to a place, particularly a place that's of great importance to our faith. Now, one of the things that I'd just like to focus on at the moment is that the statue that you can see in front of us. Now, the statue is of Mary, but it's of an apparition of Mary at a very special place to many Christians called Lourdes. And I'm reminded, and Mohammed will correct me if I'm wrong, but within the Quran, I think Maryam is mentioned 70 times, right? Which is many more times than you'll find her name in the New Testament. But having said that, Mary has got an incredibly important place for us as being the mother of Jesus. But just to focus on this place, Lourdes, and again, we've heard a constant theme of water. Back, I think it was in 1848 or 1858, I'm not quite sure, there was a young girl called Bernadette Soubrio, who lived in a very poor family, and they lived in a room which was actually not much bigger than the place that Mohammed and I are standing at the moment. And I think there was a family of 8, was it, Kath? Yeah? Family of 8, I think it was, living in that room, one room, in what they called the Bowley Mill. The room still exists, and you can still go and visit it if you want to. But one day, Bernadette was travelling down to the river, which is really a rubbish dump, to try and collect some firewood. And she saw an apparition of Mary. And Mary told her a couple of things. One was about prayer, but the other thing was that she said about pull on the grass. In fact, she said eat the grass. But as she tugged on the grass, a stream began to flow. And from that garbage dump, that rubbish dump, flowed pure water. And to this day, that water is still flowing, in much the same as we heard earlier on. And that water has been attributed to all sorts of miracles. And again, I think as Mohammed said earlier on, people will often take some Lourdes water home, and they'll have that if they're not too well or whatever. But the one thing I always remember is that something a very wise person said to me, that God always answers our prayers, but not always in the way that we expect it. So each time we pray, we remember that God always answers our prayers, but not always in the way that we expect it. But again, from that there have been many stories, and these have been accredited and medically accredited of miracles that have happened where people have been healed by these waters. But the other important thing, and that's the other centre at Lourdes as well, is about reconciliation. And very often people will go there. There is a special space dedicated to reconciliation where, again, as Mohammed said, and I keep reflecting back, all the way that we've heard of these similarities and these parallel paths that we're walking, as we're all together almost on this pilgrimage now, going to being strangers in a strange place. But hopefully we'll all learn from that. So, okay, one last point, and I'd like to dispel a myth, is that as Catholics we don't worship statues. What statues do is a bit like when you've got a photograph at home of somebody who's incredibly important. It focuses your mind. It just enables you then to focus our mind on where the prayer really is going to. Okay? So thank you very much for your attention. And our next stop, thankfully, I think Mohammed's going to say a few words. Our next stop will be at the Gurdwara, where after a short talk we will be fed. Thank you.